On This Week in Patriots Baseball, a podcast, the Pats outlast the Orioles and soar into the second round of the FedBall playoffs. Manager Keith Fischer stops by to break down a vintage pitching performance from Justin DiLorenzo. Not to be outdone, Damon Cruz comes on in relief to slam the door in a 6-3 Patriots win. We'll reset the field after the opening weekend of the playoffs, including a preview of the Pats' second-round opponent, the DC Knights. All that and more on a special playoff episode of This Week in Patriots Baseball, a podcast. Here we go. Welcome, Pats fans, to another episode of This Week in Patriots Baseball, a podcast. Now, it's always a treat to be with you, but even more so after a big Patriots win. I'm your host, Chad Kurz, and yes, indeed, we do have a Patriots win to discuss today, a playoff win at that. So it should be a very exciting show. Enough with the pleasantries. Manager Keith Fischer is here to break down the first round win versus the Orioles. Keith, welcome back to This Week in Patriots Baseball, a podcast.
Happy to be here, Chad. Thanks for having me.
Right out of the gate, let's just get your first impressions on the win, a 6-3 win over the Oakton Orioles, a team that gave us some trouble during the regular season, and it even seemed like early on that recipe might continue, but the Patriots' bats woke up, the pitching was strong throughout. And the Pats persevered for a win. What did it look like from your perspective?
Yeah, just a really important win for us. Obviously we talked about the importance of staying in the winner's bracket and sort of the way the schedule lines up and how that's the more favorable situation. So certainly it's important to win this first game, but, also for, just our continued confidence, I would say, sort of proving that, what we were doing toward the end of the season and the regular season is going to carry right over into the playoffs. So it was great to see. Bats were a little quiet early, but it was great to see any, rust or playoff jitters or whatever you want to call them. We were able to shake those off, by the middle of the game. And really the bats came alive there by, in the second half and really started hitting the ball all over the yard. So it's really great to see and just an overall great win and on to the next one.
We talked in our postseason preview episode of This Week in Patriots Baseball, a podcast, a little bit about your strategy going into the playoffs and even down the stretch in terms of, managing the lineup, rotating guys defensively. How did you feel you were able to stick to that strategy here in the first playoff game?
Yeah, I thought it went pretty well. We did stick to, a batting order of just 9. So, we had to make some decisions there as to who was going to get the bulk of those at bats. And, that I think paid off for us to get the top of the lineup up as many times as possible. When you have guys swinging as well as guys like Thomas and Nate are right now, you want to get them up there as much as possible. Obviously, Shawnee Mack and the whole top of the lineup. So, so that worked out pretty well. And then, defensively, again, we made a few adjustments here and there, but, I think for the most part, we're able to keep guys engaged on that side of the ball as well. and really just had a fantastic game. I thought defensively, made some really important plays when we needed to. Obviously, there was that crazy play right in the first inning, which in my mind really was a big momentum shifter, or it could have been even a huge momentum shifter for them. I'm talking about the play that ricocheted off of Nate and went right to Rob, and he was able to get the guy out at home. We were already down 1-0, with second and third and one out there. If that ball, ricochets into left field, the 2-run score, and we're down 3-0. As it was, we were able to get out of that inning, just trailing 1-0 there in the first. And then Justin was able to settle in after that. So, that was really important obviously a really important play for us, a great heads-up play by Rob. He's been fantastic for us at shortstop. And the defense really, held up their end of the bargain for the most part all day.
Well, and I think I want to talk about JD there, because you mentioned him, but I also want to give a nod there to Nate, because one, selflessly putting his body in front of the ball to even take a big piece of the sting out of that hit, because it was really coming at him. But I think it also shows, you talked about guys buying in. You can only play one shortstop. We talked about having 6, 7, 8 guys that you can plug in there at shortstop. Well, somebody's got to play third, and Nate stepping over there where he's played a lot of time at shortstop this year, filling in there at third and doing so admirably, really wearing one on that play. And as you said, it was an early turning point for us defensively. JD wriggled out of that tough situation there in the first, but then really settled in. Vintage JD, it looked like, on the mound today. How did he appear from your perspective, Keith?
Yeah, no, it really was. Like you said, after that first inning, and even if you go back to that first inning, I think if you talk to him, he felt like he probably had that the third guy struck out there before he eventually walked him. The strike zone was certainly questionable all day long. But you come to the middle innings and you look, and his pitch count was, basically he was like at 50 pitches through 5 innings. So he was just in control, really, the whole evening, the whole afternoon, I should say, and it was just great to see. We have an embarrassment of pitching depth right now. All of the guys on our pitching staff are going to be needing to get work in these playoff games. So it's going to be a little bit of a juggling act to try to do that. But, we really have confidence in all of those guys at the top of our rotation. So, really between those top 5 guys who have given us the bulk of the innings this year, we really feel like we have an advantage there. We think probably Paul will start this weekend, get him back on the mound and getting work, and then we'll kind of look at what the situation looks like after that. But again, we have it's a great problem to have.
So with Justin, talk to me a little bit, even Justin's progression throughout the season. I mean, this is a guy who's flirted with retirement in years past. But even he's a year or two removed from MVP consideration. So, there's no question about the talent. And, kudos to yourself and others in the front office that have been able to sort of coax him out of retirement every time, that dreaded R word seems to come up. And, gradually stretching him out over the course of the season. And then, when the lights are their brightest, what does that performance say to you about his work throughout the season and dedication to the team?
Well, I certainly wouldn't be coaxing him out of retirement if I didn't know that this is what he was capable of. And, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, he doesn't necessarily want to walk away from the Patriots and kind of the atmosphere that we have right now and the potential that we have, with this ball club and this roster. So I think all things sort of align there. He obviously had some family obligations that kept him away from the team early in the year. But, I kind of knew that if we could, kind of get him out starting in June and start, like you said, stretching him out and getting him work, that he would be here for us at this time of the year. And sure enough, he was. And, it couldn't have worked out better. And we're just glad to still have him with us for sure. And, I think he's made mention of wanting to play a few more years and have his kids see him out there on the mound. So we're going to try to keep working on him.
Hey, I think as long as number 99 wants to keep coming out and pitching it, and especially if he pitches it like he did the other day, we'll be glad to have him any day of the week. All right, from one Patriots veteran performer to a Patriots playoff debutante, Damon Cruz making his first ever appearance for the Patriots in the postseason, taking the ball from Justin after 6 strong innings, came in and closed the door in a big way. You're going to get a lot of emotion. You're going to get a lot of fire from Damon, and boy, did he deliver in his first postseason appearance.
Yeah, well, not only did he deliver on the mound, but he kind of flashed a little bit of what he can do really in all phases of the game, and what he's kind of shown us that he can do this whole year. How he can impact the game, whether it be, with his bat, which he got a big hit, which started a rally for us, which helped extend our lead late in the game, or to steal a base, which he's obviously capable of doing. And that's a big weapon for us. And then, of course, on the mound. And
he turned a big double play for us as well.
Absolutely. Not to mention the fact that he really can play anywhere on the field that you put him as well. So he really, I think, had his best overall performance, I would say. Really just kept his composure on the mound. Both JD and Damon were able to keep their composure on the mound in the face of some very tough judgment calls in the strike zone by the umpire. Some unorthodox strike zone, I guess you can say. So, that's a spot right there where you can't really let it get away from you, and you got to just stay focused and continue to battle. And that's what both of them did. And Damon, specifically with the game on the line there, at the end of the outing, that's been a transition as the season has gone on for us. Obviously, Damon started a lot of games for us in the beginning of the year. And, as things have worked out, we've transitioned him more to a closing role. And there's a number of reasons for that. One of them being his ability to be able to bounce back and potentially throw, on short rest. So, his ability to maybe come in and close multiple games for us, but also his mentality. So I trust him on the mound. I believe in him on the mound. I know he's out there and he wants to win more than anybody on the field. So that's really all you can ask for with a guy who you're handing the ball to close the game. He did a great job for us to close out games, during the regular season, and it was great to see him, execute, in that role on Saturday as well. Obviously he'd probably like to have some of those walks back, but again, the strike zone was difficult to navigate on Saturday. So overall, really strong performance. And like I said, just a really great problem for us to have right now, where we have a lot of very talented guys vying for innings. Not to keep on harping on this point, but you look across to the other dugout on Saturday, and you just don't see the same depth that we have. Meanwhile, we have, Will on our bench, who didn't even get into the game, and Paul, who wasn't even at the game. So, we feel like we're really well positioned for these next couple weeks, but, we'll just have to take it one game at a time, and we'll look forward to battling with the Knights on Saturday.
Well, Keith, ever the diplomat, a strike zone that was difficult to navigate. That's certainly one way to put it. But you handled the umpires with aplomb on Saturday, and certainly well stated there. All right, let's shift to the bats, because as you mentioned, started a little slow. Some nice defensive plays. Let's give the Orioles credit. They were on their game defensively in the early innings and kept us at bay. But come the fifth inning, Patriots start to chip away and finally get on the board. And I believe also making his postseason debut, this was Thomas's first career playoff game. 3 for 4 on the day, scored a run, knocked in a run. He was a home run short of the cycle. So very impressive day at the dish for Thomas.
And I gotta tell you, his triple was probably out of most parks that we play at. He hit that ball to the deepest part of Povich, and that ball was smoked. He was really ripping the ball on Saturday. It was great to see. You started to see some signs the last 2 games, the regular season, of him getting back on track and hitting the ball the way he was last year and the beginning of this year. If he can stay in that groove, he's just dynamite at the top of the lineup. Obviously brings a lot of speed as well. So just an absolutely fantastic game from him. Shawnee Mack doing his thing. And then you can't talk about the offense without just giving a mention to MVP, Billy Schultz, just continuing to get it done no matter where you put him in the lineup. He just, a big 2-out RBI hit there, 2 RBIs in the day, 3 hits. Just an absolutely standout game from the vet. Just another guy who, has just earned that trust over the years and continues to deliver. So really great to see Billy doing it in front of the family. And that was huge for us.
Yeah, certainly another impressive game from Billy Schultz. And yeah, he just, and even, I think he was 3 for 4. And I think even the one time he got out, he put a pretty good charge into the ball and gave it a good ride out to the outfield. So yeah, Billy Schultz is seeing the ball well, hitting the ball well here at the most critical juncture of the season. So certainly that's good to see. Keith, any final thoughts on the game before we turn our attention to this weekend's opponent, the DC Knights?
No, other than just, like we've been talking about the whole season, that the strength that we have right now is our depth. And you saw everyone, get involved on Saturday and make contributions. So, we're going to be continuing to rely on every guy on the roster as we go forward.
All right, well, speaking of going forward, let's now turn the page to our second round matchup. It's against the number 2 seeded DC Knights. They actually advanced out of the first round via a forfeit against the Flying Squirrels. And I think that was a first round matchup we were pretty excited to see. And who knows, we may still hear from the Squirrels yet. But in terms of the Knights, having not played now this past weekend, they're now going on almost 3 weeks since the regular season ended and what will essentially be their first postseason game. Certainly they're a veteran-laden team, but the idea of rest versus rust. We talked about it being a consideration for the Patriots with 2 weeks off. The DC Knights now with 3 weeks off. I got to think at least a little bit that's something that works in the Patriots' advantage, having had a hard-fought game this past weekend.
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's something that maybe they're talking about on the Knights podcast, whether that's going to be an issue for them. We can't count on that. Obviously, we will welcome any advantage that we can get. But we have to come out as if it's Game 7 every time now as we go forward. So, I'm sure they're doing the things that they need to do to prepare themselves, and they're not just sitting around. So, it's gonna be an intense matchup on Saturday.
Well, you mentioned Game 7. And in a way, this will actually be a rubber match for our season series. This will be the 5th matchup against the Knights. We've split the 4 games in the regular season, 2 wins apiece. Patriots took 2 of 3 in the closing weeks of the regular season. But now, as you think about this fifth matchup versus the Knights, what's your scouting report? What's your take on yet another showdown versus a tough opponent?
Yeah, I don't expect too many surprises. I think these are two teams who know each other, very well. Two very talented teams. So it really is going to be a battle on Saturday. This is a team that's been there before. Talking about the Knights, they've won their fair share of championships over the last few years. So they're not going to shy away from the big stage, the big moment. They've been able to execute in this spot before. So, until we're able to beat them, they have the advantage in that sense. So, we have to come in with that, like you said, that Game 7 mentality. This is a big game for us. Again, the path through the losers bracket, even at this stage, is not pleasant. So it's going to be a battle on Saturday for sure. And these are two teams that have been facing each other going back as far as almost 20 years now. So a lot of history here. In one way, any successful season for us would have to go through them. So, we're looking forward to that challenge.
Well, certainly two big pieces that it looks like we will get back into the lineup for this critical matchup. On one end, on the mound, looks like Paul is going to slot into that starter spot where he has really performed well coming down the stretch. And then into the lineup, getting Austin back, who had to miss this past weekend's game, add even more thump to the heart of the order. What's your take on Paul getting the ball here in round two, and also how do you juggle and fit Austin into the middle of the lineup?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's we're very blessed to have the pitching depth that we have. We would be perfectly happy, handing the ball to really any of those guys that we have in the rotation right now. It's even going to be a conversation with JD this week as to like, hey, I think the best thing to, maybe we'll plan for you to take this week off and come back the following week. But, those are still conversations that we're thinking through, to be honest. But we do think Paul is going to get the ball on Saturday to start. So that should provide a big lift for us and really, get us sort of reset with our rotation, if you will. Like I said, it's important for us to get everybody in the mix. I think we're going to really need all 5 of our pitchers. Right now, I'm talking about obviously JD and Paul and Damon and Will and Coliani as well. I do see that there's going to be a time where Matt's going to need to give us some innings in the postseason here. So we need to keep everybody sharp. And, we're just going to, we're going to need, these guys to lead us through the next few weeks here. And we'll get started with Paul on Saturday. As far as Austin goes, it's good to get him off the golf course and into the dugout this weekend. But he'll slot right back in there. And we did miss his bat through the lineup the first time or two for sure. He's been swinging a really hot bat for us down the stretch. He's had a lot of big hits the last few games of the season especially. Is hitting the ball with authority like you want to see him do heading into the playoffs. So really happy to have him back. Don't think we're going to be missing anybody else out of the starting lineup this week. So we should be at full strength and ready to go. So, looking forward to seeing what we can do.
Keith, that sounds great. I know we are excited to get back out there. Again, stakes are ratcheted up just a little bit higher with each round in the playoffs. And as we take on a very talented DC Knights team, that will certainly be the case. Keith, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck this Saturday. It's a 1:35 first pitch Saturday, September 17th at Povich. Your Washington Patriots against the DC Knights, the 2 versus 3 seed matchup. on the right side of the FedBall postseason bracket. Keith, appreciate the time as always. Go get him on Saturday.
All right, thanks, Chad. Will do.
And that was Patriots manager Keith Fischer. All right, let's take a quick break to pay some bills. When we come back, we'll run down the rest of the action from the opening round of the FedBall playoffs. Don't go anywhere, folks. This Week in Patriots Baseball, a podcast, returns right after these messages. If you're like the tens of Patriots fans who can't get enough of their favorite FedBall team, you really need to check out Pat's Live for authentic, once-in-a-lifetime game day experiences that bring you closer to the action than ever before. Visit WashingtonPatriotsBaseball.com/PatsLive to find out how you can get in the game. Already, fans have enjoyed in-game dugout experiences, post-game run the bases, or even served as the team's official bat boy. And there are plenty more exciting opportunities where that came from. Just visit WashingtonPatriotsBaseball.com/PatsLive for more information. But don't take our word for it. Check out what this junior slugger had to say about his recent Pats Live experience.
Hi, I'm Nick. With Pats Live, you can experience the thrill of Patriots baseball up close and personal, right alongside your favorite Patriots players. I even got to be the team's bat boy. Find out more at WashingtonPatriotsBaseball.com/PatsLive. Let's go, Pats!
Thanks, Nick, and thanks to Patriots fans everywhere who have already made Pats Live an overwhelming success. Pats Live for official game day experiences with your Washington Patriots. Because why just follow the Pats when you can live the Pats? Pats Live, exclusively at WashingtonPatriotsBaseball.com/PatsLive. That's WashingtonPatriotsBaseball.com/PatsLive. One more time, WashingtonPatriotsBaseball.com/PatsLive. Experience the thrill today at WashingtonPatriotsBaseball.com/PatsLive. Experience is subject to change without notice while supplies last. Void where prohibited. Special terms and conditions may apply. Welcome back to This Week in Patriots Baseball, a podcast. We know now how the Patriots advanced to the second round. Let's quickly recap the rest of the first round action and set the stage for some big-time matchups in round two. First up, over on the left side of the bracket, the number one seeded Trash Pandas maybe got a little more than they anticipated from the Nova Gridlock. This was a tight ball game into the middle innings. We were doing some scoreboard watching. I think the Gridlock were hanging tough, only trailing by a couple of runs into the fifth or sixth inning. Trash Pandas do blow it open late and go on to win by a final score of 10-3, advancing in the winner's bracket over on the left side of the draw. The other matchup over on that side pitted the number 4 seeded Shockers against the defending champion Washington Wood Ducks. Highly anticipated matchup that unfortunately didn't really live up to billing. The Wood Ducks showing some championship mettle, ultimately dispatching the Shockers without too much fanfare. Final score there, 10-0 Wood Ducks. That drops the Shockers down to the loser's bracket, where they will face the Gridlock, and it sets up a marquee matchup in the second round. The number 1 seeded Trash Pandas, again taking on the defending champion Washington Wood Ducks. Should be a really exciting game there in the second round. That, in fact, is the first of a doubleheader at Povich on Saturday morning. First pitch is 10:05 a.m., and that precedes the Patriots Knights game at 1:35. That's a single admission doubleheader there at Povich. So if you've got tickets to the first game, stick around and watch the Patriots Knights game as well. So big day of baseball there at Povich with a doubleheader coming up here on Saturday. All right, on the other side of the bracket, we know the Patriots got past the Orioles 6-3. They were slated to face the winner of the DC Knights Flying Squirrels matchup, and unfortunately the Squirrels never really got off the ground. In fact, they didn't even get into the parking lot they forfeited. So it officially goes down in the scorebook as a 9-0 DC Knights win. It drops the Squirrels down to the losers bracket to face the Oakton Orioles, and again sets up that rubber match, the 5th meeting of the season between the DC Knights and the Washington Patriots. Should be a really exciting, hotly contested game. Again, the second game of that doubleheader there at Povich. First pitch 1:35 p.m. coming up this Saturday, the 17th of September. And as of the recording of this particular episode, we've actually learned that the Flying Squirrels have forfeited their losers bracket matchup against the Oakton Orioles. So the Orioles have actually advanced already to the next round of the losers bracket, and so they await the loser of the DC Knights and Washington Patriots matchup. So we can project out a little bit, win or lose, what happens here in the next week to 10 days for either the Knights or the Patriots. One moves on, and one will drop down to the losers bracket for a matchup with the Orioles. So still plenty to play for, but here in the second round of the winners bracket, your matchups, once again, the top-seeded Trash Pandas versus the Washington Wood Ducks, and the DC Knights versus the Washington Patriots. Some compelling matchups indeed on each side of the bracket. Probably would say as expected in terms of looking at the seeds that advanced. But as we continue down the road to Povich, these games only get more intense. The stakes raise just a little bit higher, and the atmosphere, the excitement inside the ballpark really should be quite palpable for these games. So the postseason continues this Saturday at Povich. It's a doubleheader, Trash Pandas versus the Wood Ducks at 10:05. The DC Knights versus the Washington Patriots at 1:35. Don't miss a minute of the action. On behalf of the entire team here at This Week in Patriots Baseball, a podcast, I'm your host, Chad Kurz. We'll see you next time. Until then, don't forget to try your best. So long, everybody.